Chapter 5. Dante sat, expecting some attempt at his hide by Freddy to be coming, and decided to look through the large metal desk and cabinets before him. He pushed the large fan atop it aside, noted its unusually high running speed, and began sifting through the drawers. Whoever the previous security guard was, he concluded, must have been a pretty heavy drinker. Empty whiskey bottles sat on the bottom few cabinets and stank of stale saliva. As he investigated further, he came across a file of some kind, marked, "Mike Schmidt's Notes. Please read." Dante lazily looked over the documents gathered inside, mostly worn-out old newspaper clippings and rolls of tape, probably used to secure the notes in place. Let's see. Kids vanish at local pizzeria. Local pizzeria threatened with shutdown over sanitation. Ominous unknown killer still at large. Man, some people have no idea how newspaper headlines work. He shrugged, gave these no more mind than he gave the man on the phone, and continued to look through the drawers. Not just a drinker, but a smoker too, huh? That could be useful. When he was finished with the desk, he checked the tablet again to find Freddy had disappeared from the show stage. As he scanned across every room, he wasn't sure if he could find him at all, and got up to check the lights in the hallway. Still, he did not appear. "All right, Freddy, all right," Dante said. "You want to play that way? Fine, but I want to get some more sleep." So, he hit the buttons on both doors, slamming them downwards, and locked himself in the office. The clock read 4 a.m., and he still had about 30% of his allotted power left. You just knock when you're ready to play. Dante leaned back in his chair and shut his eyes for about a minute, thinking about how long and hard he was going to sleep when he got home. After a minute of pleasant quiet, there was a sound of deep, mocking laughter. Dante opened a single eye, and was greeted by a true face-to-face confrontation with Freddy Fazbear. For the first time that night, Dante was caught off guard. He fell backwards and crashed to the ground, and simultaneously got a kick directly into Freddy's face as he flailed, which made the animatronic reel back as he did. Dante's hand went to his head as he glared up at Freddy. "You know what? That's the most impressive thing I've seen all night. You managed to get in here while the doors were shut. Congratulations. But that also means you were stupid enough to mess with the guy who turned your buddies into scrap." He cracked his knuckles. "But before we get this party started, I do have one question. Why?" Freddy stared at him, an almost confused look on its face, and pointed toward the telephone. "Wait, did that guy explain it? I didn't actually listen." At this, Freddy threw up his hands and, to Dante's surprise, managed to roll his eyes. He pressed a gigantic finger to the machine, first to turn it on, then to fast forward for a few seconds until he came to a long stretch by the man.
These characters, if they happen to see you after hours, probably won't recognize you as a person. They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Now, since that's against the rules here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, they'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcefully pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death. The only parts of you that would likely see the light of day again would be your eyeballs and teeth when they pop out the front of the mask.
At that, Freddy pointed to the recording and glared at him again. Well, that raised about as many questions as it answered. It's also not happening. Freddy grabbed a hold of him as one of the bear's bright blue eyes slipped from its socket, loosened by Dante's kick, and revealed a burning red robotic eye. "You've made this 1,000 times worse for yourself, man. I thought you guys were trying to kill me typically, and I'm okay with that. I've been dead before, but there is no way I'm putting on that stupid costume." Freddy tugged and successfully pulled him toward the door. "I'm giving you the chance to walk away. Let go of my jacket, get back on the stage, and we'll both leave tonight the same way we came in. This doesn't have to happen." Freddy took one of his hands off Dante and pressed the button leading to the hall on the left side. "All right, I warned you." Dante grabbed a hold of Freddy's head and twisted. The motion snapped Freddy's robotic neck until his head was on the same side as his back. Freddy's eyes spoke his disbelief for a moment before he opened his mouth and roared in anger and agony. Dante pressed the button again, locking the two inside, took a step back and kicked Freddy in the head, successfully severing it from the rest of his body, and watched as it bounced off the door, walls, and floor before it came to a firm stop on the ground. Dante looked down at the head, a little smirk on his face as he pulled his chair up and leaned back, ready to doze again. And then the headless Freddy Fazbear animatronic grabbed a hold of him again. Dante did a double take. Oh, come on! He stood up and tried to punch him, only to realize he couldn't hit him in the face anymore. Freddy threw him against the left side door and pressed the button, again making Dante fall backwards into the dark hallway. The animatronic picked up his head, clutched under one arm, and lifted Dante up with his free hand. Dante swished a mouthful of spit to blast in its face, but stopped and remembered again the head wasn't actually on its shoulders. "You're pretty damn lucky I didn't bring any of my weaponry here," he said, "but I can improvise with the best of them." Dante took a hold of Freddy's free arm, disappeared in a flash of red light and a body of deep black and shining red scales, and tore off Freddy's arm. A kick to the stomach forced him back into the office. Dante reverted to his human state and patted the arm on his hand like a baseball bat. "You ready, Freddy?" He snickered, took a step forward, and began senselessly beating Freddy with his own broken arm. Dante dug Freddy's fist into his face and stomach, bringing it down again and again. The clang of metal against metal filled the tiny office. Freddy uttered small but still deep groans with every bash until Dante threw the arm into the hallway, his breath both heavy and worn. The body and arm were dragged into the hallway. Dante wiped his hands of more bloody oil, still unsure where it was all coming from. However, when he returned to the office to retrieve Freddy's head, it was nowhere to be found. His eyes scanned the room for a few seconds before the light overhead went out and left him in complete darkness. "I had more power left than that," he said under his breath, and searched for any sign of the bear's head. The room went completely silent. No sight, no sound, nothing was apparent within. Until a few bright flashes came from one corner of the room, accompanied by a music box-like rendition of the Toreador March, which, to Dante's surprise, he recognized. "The hell? You play the Toreador song?" He laughed as he looked toward the flashing lights and saw they were the eyes of Freddy's decapitated head. He stopped and chuckled a little, the head now in his hands. "On anyone else, this would be incredibly subtle foreshadowing, Fred. To me, it's just funny trivia." He ran his hand along. He then released Freddy's head to grab the object exclusively, violently shook the bear until he relinquished his grip, and Dante could identify the object after lighting one of the former security guard's matches. "Ah, sneaky little bastard, aren't you? You somehow managed to take out the fuse. With your teeth. And no body. I shouldn't think about this as much as I am." Dante found the fuse box and slipped it back in, illuminating the office again. He picked up Freddy's head, now hung in defeat. "Only question now is what I'm gonna do with you. And Dante goes for a three-point basket, and he tossed Freddy's head toward the garbage can he'd pulled from the hall. The head fell in. He scores another three-point shot. Dante's lead is raised to 99 over Freddy's Fazbear's absolutely nothing. The crowd goes wild. As he dug Freddy's head out, the eyes and mouth seemed to plead with him to put him out of his misery. "What's the matter there, Fred?" Dante asked. "I had fun playing your games. You aren't having fun playing mine?" Freddy let out a deep, demonic groan. "That's all right. I've already decided how I'm going to finish this." Dante grabbed a hold of the roll of tape from the desk and secured Foxy's teeth to the blades of the fan, after briefly shutting it off and removing its frontal grate. He then grabbed Freddy's head with one hand and took a hold of the fan's plug with the other. "You and your buddies are machines that run on demonic energy, huh? That's what I had to guess. It's not very impressive demonic energy, though. Let me show you how it's done." In another surge of red, Dante transformed into his devil trigger state and squeezed the plug. The fan began to run, surging with his own hellish energy as it spun faster and faster. Freddy's eyes went large as he watched the office fan become 3 whirling blades of death and destruction. His groans came faster, as if gasping and pleading this not be how he came to an end. As he came closer, Dante began to recite a line he'd heard far too many times from his commercial. "Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Yesterday, I thought it was just false advertising, but you know what? It's true. I had a fun time here, Freddy. And now my last fantasy of the night gets to come true. Freddy's face was an inch from the wildly gyrating fan blades, because after this, I finally get to go to sleep. He could have just let go, but he didn't. Dante shoved the head into the blades as Freddy Fazbear was quickly pureed. The costume's fur was sliced to pieces. Sparks and clanks of steel sounded off the blades as they struggled, but then successfully tore through the metal of Freddy's endoskeleton. After a few seconds, Dante relinquished his grip and wiped some of the Gibbs spray off his face. Gross. He then finally sat back down and observed the carnage that covered the posters and the entirety of the desk. Yeah, I'd call that an improvement. He grabbed the tablet, determined to give one last look through the restaurant before finally letting himself catch up on sleep. He searched every room, found no sign of any animatronics or the sort, and only paused when he looked at the last of the rooms, the West Hall. Wait, when did that get there? He was sure he hadn't seen it before, but it was clear as day in that moment. A poster depicting an eyeless, golden Freddy Fazbear staring directly at the camera.